Okay. I think, oh my gosh, please don't, pumpkins, it's not stable. I had a feeling it was gonna happen. Finally got it kind of even, and pumpkins just was like, no, no, no. Hello, beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be finally putting together a TBR for the r/fantasy bingo. If you aren't familiar with r fantasy bingo, like I wasn't familiar with r fantasy bingo, it is a Reddit thread group that has been doing this, I think, since like 2015 or 2014, where they have a bingo board, I'll put it here, of different prompts. This goes from April of this year until March, the end of March, or beginning of April of next year. And it's just a bunch of fantasy prompts to get you, what are you looking for? Huh? Yeah, what? Anyway, it has all these different prompts, and you know, the goal is to black out this bingo board and catch up on some fantasy, find some new fantasy favorites, different things like that. So I thought I would shop my bookshelves, because if you can see, I'll just turn you a little bit here. That is my stack of physical fantasy books that I have not read, for the most part, on my bookshelf. And then we're gonna have to supplement some audiobooks, digital books, different things like that for a couple of these prompts. But I do have quite a few books here that I think I can use for these prompts. I will go ahead and link the Reddit thread below if you want all the details. Like I said, this is going into next year, so there's still time to participate and make your own bingo board TBR. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick books for each prompt, and then I want to give a go, since this is a bingo board, give it a go of a spinning wheel. So put all of the books that I have for the prompts on the spinner, and then as we're going throughout the year, I'll go ahead and give it a spin when I'm looking for a fantasy book to read, to see which book I'm gonna do next. So that is the idea for this video. We're gonna go through the prompts. I'm gonna try to pick books that I think I already have on my shelf for that, and then any that I can't find, we'll go ahead and see what we can put on there to supplement, and then we will put those all on the spinner. And I think for the end of this vlog, we will probably pick one book to start off with our fantasy bingo, and just get a go and see which one we get first, because I have quite a few hefty books on my TBR that need to get done. So without further ado, did you get lopsided again? You got lopsided again. How did that happen? My camera stand is drunk. That's how it happened. The thing just keeps shifting. So the first square is Knights and Paladins, which is pretty self-explanatory. So Knights and Paladins, a book with a knight or paladin character. I already read a book that could qualify for this. So I read the first book in the Tea Kingfisher series, the Paladin's Grace is the name of the book that I read, I believe is the name of that one. Let me take some look-sees. Oh, the Saints of Steel series. So yeah, I read the first one in the Saints of Steel series, is Paladin's Grace, which our main characters are all paladins. So that would count for this. It is like a fantasy romance situation. There are multiple books in the series. So I did already read Paladin's Grace this year. I think I read it after April. But I also feel like we could read the second one for our fantasy bingo. Okay, so the next one for this, the Saint of Steel series, is Paladin's Strength. And the premise for Paladin's Strength, so they're all paladins of a dead god. It's kind of how they start off. And so there's not many of them left. And like I said, these are fantasy romance. And okay, so we got, he is a paladin of a dead god tracking a supernatural killer across a continent. She's a nun from a secretive order on the trail of the raiders who burned her covenant and kidnapped her sisters. When their paths cross at the point of a sword, Istvan and Clara will be pitched headlong into each other's quest, facing off against enemies both living and dead. But Clara has a secret that could jeopardize the growing trust between them. A secret that will lead them to gladiatorial pits of a corrupt city and beyond. Next one is a hidden gem. And the hidden gem needs to be something that has under a certain amount of reviews. Which hidden gem? A book with under 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. New releases and arcs from popular authors do not count. Follow the spirit of the square. So, oh, we've got one. Okay, so I picked this up as a used book from one of my local bookstores because it sounded interesting. Same author of the Lady Trent series, if you're not familiar with them. This is Driftwood. So it's like places that were like slowly dying off, having apocalypses, and they kind of like get pulled into this neighborhood kind of thing. It was a very interesting, very strange concept. It's pretty short too. It's less than 300 pages, which is nice as well. But this has been sitting on my TBR for quite a while since I picked it up. I don't know. It's a very, like, I'm not explaining this well. Essentially, like, the place of Driftwood is where, like, a bunch of continents and things, like, are constantly dying off. And there's this guy called The Last who is the one blooded survivor who has seen his world end many lifetimes ago. And so there are rumors that The Last has died. And so these peoples are coming together to commemorate him. But I guess we find out like maybe different stories about The Last from these different people as they're there commemorating him. But yeah, it sounds interesting. It has 239 reviews on Goodreads, so bam, baby. There we go. Next book on our list here. Oh, this one was hard. So the next one going along the top row here is published in the 80s. And I had Interview the Vampire, and I was like, oh, I could do Interview the Vampire. I mean, it's paranormal, but like I still feel like fantasy adjacent. However, that was published in the 70s. So I was looking up list of fantasies that I could do, and I did see that Howl's Moving Castle. Oh. What are you doing? Oh, it's so sweet. But I did see that Howl's Moving Castle was published in the 80s. And I had intended to pick that book up. It's fairly short, and I think I could get it as an audiobook or at the library. So I'm going to put Howl's Moving Castle as my option for a fantasy book published in the 80s. Your girl did her homework. Next is High Fashion. And this is a book where clothing, fashion, or fiber arts are important to the plot. Their biggest example is Torn by Rowena Miller, which I actually read Torn a long time ago. I don't know if I'm going to reread it, but I do think I have the second book. Yeah, so I think I will go ahead and put Frey, the second book of the Unraveled Kingdom, on this bingo spot because I do have it on my e-reader, and I remember enough from the first book that I could probably just go in to read that. But if I must reread it, I also still have Torn on my e-reader, so I could read that one if I like start Frey and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. So we could start that one for that, and I definitely know it'll fit that prompt. And I did want to continue on in the series, so might as well make that a possibility. Okay. The next prompt in this first row is read a book in which a main plot revolves around disrupting a system. Disrupting a system. So disrupting a system, I actually think I'm gonna go with Six Wild Crowns by Holly Race. This is a fantasy inspired by Henry VIII and his 6 wives. And basically the king is supposed to have 6 wives, and they're all on different islands, and they're supposed to be kept separated, but Anne Boleyn and Jane, just as Boleyn and Seymour. It doesn't say if their names are Anne and Jane. I'm making assumptions here. So Boleyn and Seymour discover that there might be a dark magic the king has to, like, can keep only if this system is followed. And so the queens, they try to band together to foil this. And so I think this is a perfect choice for that situation. So we will go with that. Okay, next one, we had the mind-bending physics worlds, and I'm of 2 minds. So I'm gonna go with, I think for this one, I'm gonna choose the How to Become the Dark Lord in Die Trying by Django Wexler. So this is a Groundhog Day inspired story, so bending physics, because we're in a time loop here, and Davy is our main character, and she's tried to defeat the Dark Lord a bunch of times and keeps dying and has to do this over and over again. So she's done trying to do that. She's going to try to become the Dark Lord and hopefully stop this time loop. So I think that would count as being in a world where physics isn't working correctly, right? Or like time isn't working correctly. I feel like that counts, because my other choice was going to be, and I mean, it still could be, I have The Storm of Echoes by Christelle Davos, which is the Mirror Visitor series. It's the final one in the series. But there is a choice for the final one in the series. And I've been meaning to read this book. I think this is on my 20 for 25. I've been meaning to read this book, but the World of the Mirror Visitors series is very mind-bendy. So I feel like this one really fits that prompt, and I could read the last Emily Wilde's book for the other one. So for now, I'm gonna put Trying to Become the Dark Lord, How to Become the Dark Lord or Die Trying. But this is a possibility if I feel like, if somebody tells me like perhaps this one doesn't really fit that category. You can let me know. Next is a book in parts. So that is a book that literally has like, it's like part 1 or part 2, stuff like that. I don't think. Okay, so for this prompt of a book in parts, I'm gonna pick Babylonia by Constanza Casati. Constanza Casati, which has books, and this is like historical fantasy fiction. So she is rewriting the tale of, I got told you were taking too long to pick these books. So I'm gonna pick Babylonia. This is basically weaves together myths and ancient history to give Samarius, the only female ruler of the Assyrian Empire, a voice, turning her captivating ascent to the throne no one promised her. And like I mentioned, it is broken up into book parts. So not just the chapters, but there are parts in this book. So a fantasy book in parts. Row, Gods and Pantheons. Gods and Pantheons. So I have another book on my shelf that I've been meaning to read. It's a short story. It is In the Shadow of the Fall by Toby Oregundian. And this is about Ashake, who is an acolyte for the Temple of Ifa. And basically she has been waiting for an Orisha to serve, but the Orisha refused to speak. And she basically summons one and traps him. So in order to get powers, and then she gets like thrown into a centuries old war. Now, I just don't know if an Orisha is considered like a demon or if they're considered like a god. So let me double check. So it's a spiritual entity in the Yoruba religion, and it's related to diaspora traditions like Santeria and Candomblé. I'm sorry if I mispronounce that. And these deities are considered embodiments of natural forces and human qualities, acting as intermediaries between the supreme god and humanity. Each Orisha has unique characteristics associated with colors, numbers, and even preferred foods. We're going to go ahead with In the Shadow of the Fall by Toby Orogundiran and learn a little more about Orishas and this story here, which sounds really fun. Next in the row is last in the series. So read the final entry in the series. So like I mentioned, I have 2 books that would work for this. So the one I was going to do for this one is The Storm of Echoes by the Mirror Visitor of the Mirror Visitor series. This is a 4-book fantasy by French author Christelle Davos. Super good, like super interesting world. Like I mentioned, this is very mind-bendy. The world is very physics-bending. So it really would fit that prompt as well. But I have this one, it's the last one in the series, and it has been on my shelf for so long. So I've heard that people don't like this as much as the other 3, and I think that has made me hesitant to read it. But I really do want to read it. I'm pretty sure this is on my 20 for 25. I could double check. I don't know if I will, but I could double check. So I do want to read this. So this is the last one in the series. I'm going to put it on that list. Oh, the series is 4 more books long, so it has to be that one. Okay. Okay, book club or read along book. Read a book that was or is officially a group read on our fantasy. Oh! Haha! Easy enough. I found a book on my shelf that happens to be on this. So for this prompt, another book that has been sitting on my shelf for a hot minute is The Beast Player by Nahoku Uehashi. And I have been wanting to read this. I thought the cover was beautiful, and it's been kind of given as like a Studio Ghibli-esque kind of story. But I've been meaning to read this one, and I kept putting it on list. But I did see that it is on the Our Fantasy Book Club's threads, and it says it can be was or officially read. So this is on my bookshelf. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Next, to the third row. Parent protagonist. Read a book where a main character has a child to care for. The child does not have to be biologically related to the character. No! Let's take a quick pause here. Story time. I participated in the Houston book crawl, independent bookstore book crawl back in April with my friend Karen. And we went to 10 different bookstores, which means we could turn this in for a chance to win a raffle. I went to 10 different bookstores with Karen. We went all around Houston. And then I could not find this bingo card. The book that I found this in is the second book in the Witcher series. So obviously if you've seen the show or read the books or played the video games, you know that Geralt is charged with protecting Ciri, who is a child. And so, here we go. A book about a parental figure or guardian, and it's fantasy. I've read the first one. This is the second one in the series, so here we go. Adding it to it. This one, I do not think any of the books that I currently have on my shelf will fit this prompt. So we're gonna come back to it because I'm gonna have to look and see. All right, published in 2025. I have quite a few that could fit this one. We're gonna come back to this one first too, because I have quite a few that were published in 2025 currently, and this way I make sure like the prompts are gonna match, and whichever one doesn't, we can go ahead and place it there. So we'll come back to that. Number 14, or the fourth one in the third row across, is an author of color. So I have had this on my shelf since November. That's The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And this is a cozy fantasy about a wandering fortune teller who finds an unexpected family in this warm and wonderful debut fantasy. So yeah, it's a cozy fantasy. I've seen mixed reviews about this, but I'm interested to read it. And like I said, it's been on my shelf for a while. So I do think we will put The Teller of Small Tales. I keep doing it. The Teller of Small Tales. The Teller of Small Fortunes for our POC author. Small press or self-published. Read a book by a small press or self-published book. Okay, I got this in my Caffeine and Legends book box, Christmas book box, the Advent calendar book box. Tea with a Minotaur. Okay. Well, that solves one problem. Self-published book, A Tea with a Minotaur. So it's about a Minotaur named Makai, a bookish Minotaur, and he's never really fit in with his clan, and he prefers drinking his tea than doing all the things that Minotaurs do. He embarks on a journey to gather honey for his tea rather than face his family's ridicule, because he basically misses an important family event and nearly destroys the neighboring clan's camp. And then there's like found family, he ends up meeting a dragon and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a little cozy fantasy. We got like a tiny owl and such. So I've been meaning to read this, and now I realize this is self-published. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So we've got our little self-published book here. Tea with the Minotaur by Adrian Hyatt. Fourth row, biopunk. Read a book that focuses on biotechnology or its consequences. I could read the Murderbot series, because technically the Murderbot, like the sec units and all that, they are made with human, like they're made with like human DNA. Like they're not just tech. I mean, that's more sci-fi than fantasy, but technically we could do that one. The next one is Elves and or Dwarves. Read a book that features the classical fantasy archetypes of elves and or dwarves. They do not have to fit the classic tropes, but must be either named as elves or dwarves or be easily identified as such. Sounds harder because like without exclusively saying there's elves and dwarves, you may not know there are elves and dwarves in a book. I mean, there might be one in Emily Wilde, technically. Okay, there's definitely a gnome. Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, LGBTQI protagonist. I believe we have, for that one, could read Strange Beast, where we have two protagonists who I believe are part of the Letters family. This is a bindery book that I've been meaning to read, a bindery published book, and it is about Samantha Harker, daughter of Dracula's killer, and who ends up finding herself assigned to a case with Dr. Helena Moriarty, the daughter of a criminal mastermind and famed nemesis of Sherlock Holmes, and a notorious detective who no one wants to work with. They're trying to stop a beast from its killing rampage, by Susan J. Morris, as I said. Yeah, so we've got two characters who I believe are part of the Lovely Letters community, part of the queer community, and they are trying to stop a beast and possibly other people who are involved with it, and possibly fall in love in the process. Strange Beast. This one we have to find one for, and that's 5 sci-fi fantasy short stories, there have to be 5 of them. So I need to look that up. I don't have any short stories on my list. I don't have like a collection of short stories on my list. And then we have A Stranger in a Strange Land. Read a book that deals with a foreigner in a new culture. The character or characters, if there are a group, must be visiting or moving in as a minority. Read the final book in the Emily Wilde compendium. The final book in the Emily Wilde trilogy for this one, the Compendium of Lost Tales. I won't tell you anything more about this because this is a 3rd book in a trilogy, and if you haven't read them yet, but I do intend, I think, to reread all 3 of these before I reread. I do intend to reread the first 2 before I read this one. So when this one hits, I will do that vlog. Cool. All right, so we're on the 5th row. I have to go and look at the bingo squares from the other Our Fantasy bingos because you're basically recycling a square from one of those. So I have to look. And I will go look. So for the next one in the 5th row, we have Cozy Fantasy. We have The Spell Shop, which I've been meaning to read too, and it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. This is a cozy fantasy. I believe the follow-up is coming up. It's a lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. And that's The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, which was very popular last year. And like I mentioned, I do think it's like the greenhouse, garden house, or something like that is coming out this year. But this one came out last year, and it's been sitting on the bookshelf. I have a pile right now as we're picking through these. Generic title. Read a book that has one or more of the following words in the title: blood, bone, broken court, dark, shadow, song, sword, or throne. Plural is allowed. Generic title, Bookshops and Bone Dust. Bone Dust. Oop. I just threw a magnet bookmark on accident. Okay. So, Bookshops and Bone Dust is going to go in our generic title because it does have the word bone in the title. She getting added back. If we keep taking her off, we keep putting her on and then taking her off, but she's getting added back right this moment. Right this moment. Okay, Bookshops and Bone Dust. Perfect. Perfect. We've got not a book, so this prompt will just put on there not a book and do something new besides reading a book. Watch a TV show, play a game, learn how to summon a demon, spend time with fantasy, science fiction, or horror in another format. So that will be what we put on there. And then the final one is pirates. Read a book where characters engage in piracy. So I don't have anything on my shelf for that one either, physically. But that leaves us with a couple books that we have not put on this Our Fantasy bingo. And as I mentioned, 2 of them are from 2025. So I have The Last Vigilant, which is a book I got from Caffeine and Legends. So this is about an outcast soldier named Holt Hawley who has been sent out to find the last survivors of an ancient and powerful order called the Vigilants. And he ends up finding this woman, Enelda, and who claims to be a vigilant. The way I thought I'd be finished with this so much faster. So they're trying to stop like a dark power that might destroy their world. So this one could be our 2025 pick, but I also have The Raven Scholar, which I really want to read. I don't really know what this book is about, and I don't want to know what this book is about, honestly. There seems to be an emperor, and they're trying to replace him, but there's some nefarious things that may have gone on, and our main character, Nima, is trying to figure that out and secure the throne and make sure that it doesn't go to some nefarious person. it seems. And then there's this group called the Raven Scholars that are seeming to help her in the background that she doesn't seem to know about. That is all I have gathered from the inside book cover. So I don't know. She is a hefty book. A hefty book. But I have heard nothing but good things about this book. So I do really, really want to read this. What if we put both of these on the wheel for our 2025 new releases, and we let chance decide which one of those will count? Because I'm sure I'll end up reading both of these anyway at some point in time. So I feel like that's fine. Really, that's fine. Goodness. Let's switch over to our computer so we can get these books in here and then find the last couple books and add them to our wheel and then give it a spin and wrap this up, because this is going to be so much fun to edit. So much fun. I'm so excited.
아직도 난 격이 흐릿하게 더 의미하게 나의 아니 자주 난 어제 일처럼 선명하게 나의 너의 흔적 없지만 있는 것 같아 일상 속에도 번져 그 색깔이 바래져서 떠났지만 여전히 물론 날 잡아주는 다가가도 멀게만 느껴져 I just wanna be with you right now 너의 기억 속에 남았어 I just wanna be remembered 너의 잔상 속에 살면서 oh yeah I just wanna be with you right now 너의 기억 속에 남았어 I just wanna be with you babe I just 남겨진 향기 가끔 내 방 안을 채워